Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, or good night, my kindred spirits. Welcome back to Roots and Culture Travel. I am Chelsea S. Porter, and I made this video like a long time ago, a few years ago, but it's like really crappy quality, and this is not the best quality. I'm actually trying to use just my laptop camera, but it's better than what I got. So, um, I wanted to remake this video for you guys so that I can take the other one down because it's like so terrible. Um, but yeah, I wanted to remake this video for you guys. And if you are new here, then welcome and welcome back. I tend to make videos that are about travel and wellness and culture, creativity, things like that. So it's sometimes a little bit all over the place, but it's my channel. I do what I want. That's it. So I wanted to kind of give you guys my digital nomad story and some history on like who I am and how I got in this situation. It's not something I talk about often on this channel. I kind of allude to it sometimes, but it's not something I go in deep about because it is a very emotional story. So today I am going to open up to you guys and talk about this once again. So I found myself widowed at 28 years old. I was married to a Colombian painter named Andres Contreras Garcia, and we lived in Chicago, and he suddenly passed away, and I lost my mind. Losing someone suddenly is a very traumatic experience. Um, he was there one moment and he was gone the next. And it was very difficult for me. It was very difficult. It still is very difficult for me, let me just say. Grief is not something that grief is not something that is linear, you know. So to say that it's not difficult for me is not really, it's better. That's not really a true statement. It comes in waves when I'm going through a difficult time. Of course, that wound hurts more and I miss him more. So, um, I stayed in Chicago for a year after he passed away. Excuse me. I started teaching and I just wasn't progressing. I just was not, um, I wasn't moving forward in my life. And um, so I would have these moments where even months and months later, I would have these moments where I would get off of the bus and I would see somebody with like his curly hair in the back. And I would follow this person on the street and I would be like, okay, if I can just catch up to them, maybe I'll put my hand on their shoulder and I'll turn around and it'll be him and this will like all be a bad dream. Um, and I'm just talking about this part of my journey because I think that it's important. And I was widowed at such a young age. I wish that somebody had made a video like this for me. I went through a phase of having to wear his clothes every day, and he was a small man. He was 5'6", 130 pounds. I am 6 feet tall and very obviously heavyset woman. So we were physically opposites. Um, I don't know about heavyset, but I'm quite curvy. Okay, so I'm a big person, and he's a very small person, and so I would like cut his t-shirts so I could squeeze my boobs inside so I could just wear his clothes. So this went down with his underwear. I don't know why I could wear his underwear, maybe because they're stretchy, but this went on for a while. Even under my clothes, I would have on his clothes, and I destroyed a lot of his clothes doing this shit, which I kind of wish I had just like framed some of his t-shirts or something. But this is where I was at, and I realized that this was not a healthy place to be. Coffee. And then I had a breakdown one day. I was walking my dog, and I passed by this house that I used to love in my neighborhood. You might see this house in some of my paintings. So this is where this house comes from. So I was walking my dog, and there was this yellow house, this big yellow house that I loved, and um, I I loved this house, and suddenly somebody had decided to paint it gray, and I was just like, what the fuck? And I broke down. It was like half of the house was gray and then half of the house was still yellow. And for me, that represented like, you know, everything is changing around me, regardless of if I want it to or not, regardless of if I like it or not. Things are changing. And so I broke down. I was sobbing on the sidewalk with my dog, like running around like a crazy person. And I was just like, there's too many memories. I'm 28 years old. I can't, I was a photographer in Chicago. I was making decent money. I was able to like support myself. I was making like $400 an hour on my bookings. Photographers know how much that really is because a lot of editing and a lot of shit goes into that $400 an hour. So it sounds like tons of money, but photographers know what I'm talking about. But I was doing fine for myself. My husband was selling paintings at, $5,000 for a big painting. So we were doing well. Um, but like my whole world was upside down. And I was also paying like $1,500 a month in rent. I had used my savings for a funeral, and I could not afford like $125 an hour like therapist. And I didn't want to go on a bunch of drugs, you know? And I also didn't want to become an alcoholic. I didn't want to start smoking weed all the time. Like, I just felt like my mental health was catastrophe, and I felt like I had no options to be healthy where I was at. I had no help. I had no mental health care options unless I was a rich person. Um, Beautiful birds. So everything reminded me of him because he was also, um, well, he was from Colombia, but he was a neighbor before. We lived in the same neighborhood. We worked together before we got married. So everything reminded me of him. So I decided, okay, I gotta go. I gotta leave. I gotta get the hell out of here, save my mental health. So leaving the United States for me was a very personal journey, and something was personal going on in my life. It was not me being frustrated. It was not me, feeling consumed with racism. Yes, I lived in a community where there was a lot of crime, but it was my community. I love it. Um, I'm from Pilsen in Chicago, 18th and May. Represent Chicago. So I I was not dealing with some of the issues that some of you guys are dealing with. I also had traveled internationally already. So I will just say that this was not something that my challenges were my challenges, and they were completely different than most people's challenges, right? Most people's challenges are a lot. of things that are due to the the things that have changed in the United States, or the things that have become exacerbated in the United States over these past several years, right? Um, at that time, I was like at the height of my life, I was at the height of my career, even. Um, so I felt very satisfied in most ways. I left because what I did not feel from my country was options for mental health assistance. And um, all the things that were offered to me when he died, that was not one of them, was how to get to the next part. Um, and I think that also, being so young, I just did not have a support system. I did not have a network. And I'm not talking about friends and family that love you. I'm talking about people that really know what you're going through, because when when I was 28, it was very uncommon to be a widow, and um, widows groups and stuff I couldn't relate to. I was married for 2 years, and these people had been married for 30 years, as long as I had been alive. That's a completely different situation. That's a completely different type of pain, I feel like, because uh, I didn't even have a chance to hate him yet, like, we hadn't even been through the trials and tribulations of marriage, and the hopelessness and the despair and the coming back, and like, we were still very much in love. Not saying we didn't have issues, but we were we were still at the height of 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 marriage, newlyweds. So trying to talk to my situation with people that had been married for 30 years, they were like, "Oh, girl, you'll find another one," and I'm still waiting. But I often felt like my pain was brushed off because, yeah, because we were young. So, um, plan how I got to the next step. So I already had lived and worked in Alaska for a jewelry designer 6 or 7 years before this. So what I did was I sold everything in my house. I put the rest in storage. My coffee is getting cold. I put a lot of important things, quote unquote important things, in storage. I came back years later and I didn't want any of that shit, but I got the smallest storage unit possible. I put the special things in there. I sold everything. I gave everything away. By the time I paid all the bills, uh, you know, all the expenses that I had, funerals are fucking expensive, guys. Um, I I had gotten a job online writing. I was making $25 per article. Okay, not a lot of money, not a lot of money, but I had a job. So first thing I did was I went to visit some friends who, sadly, some of them I haven't seen since. But I knew that I was going to be, sorry, there's some kids coming down the street here. I knew that I was going to be gone for a bit. I didn't think I was going to be gone 10, 11 years. So at first, I went to go visit some friends that were really important to me and that had helped to keep me, together during this whole situation. So I went to visit some friends, and I was working online with this job for $25 an article, and I had $400 in my pocket. I left my house with $400. I left my house with $400, and yeah, so that's what I did. I knew that if I could get to Alaska, I could find another job. So that's what I did. I traveled around the United States for a couple of months, visiting people, seeing people, saying, hello and goodbye to people. And then I made it to Alaska, where I got a job in tourism. And I got a job in tourism, worked that for the season. By the time the season ended, I said, okay, let me get another job to take me to the next season. So I switched to back to jewelry industry. That job took me to St. Thomas, U.S. Virgin Islands, VI till I die. So um, I moved to the Virgin Islands selling jewelry, and I said, okay, this is great, but oh, I also started DJing in Alaska. So I went to Alaska, was working in tourism, started DJing for extra money, excuse me, got a job in jewelry, and then I said, I don't want to do this. Like, I think my thing is that I'm a person that doesn't like to be like confined in a box. So I um I wanted to teach English. I had started teaching in Chicago. Those kids like saved my life. So I yeah, I started teaching. I wanted to teach English, so I started saving money. I went to Prague, got my TEFL certification, and yeah, started teaching English as a foreign language in Europe. Loved it, but I got cold really fast, and I was like, "This is." I didn't leave Chicago to be cold, so um, yeah. So I after that, I decided, okay, let me go back and get warm. So I went back to my job in the Virgin Islands. And then I have a good friend, Monroy, who asked me about who convinced me to go to Thailand. And going to Thailand was not even my like it was not even on my radar. I was always like, I want to go to Africa. I want to live in Africa. This is my life's dream. Is at some point I have to live in Africa. So my friend Monroy was like, "Oh, let's go to Thailand." And I was like, "Are you serious?" And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, yeah, let's go. It's gonna be cool." So I was like, "Okay, I'll find all the cool stuff for us to do, and you get us there because me, I have no sense of direction. I cannot find my way out of a paper bag. None." So after all these months of planning, Monroy was like, "Oh man, I'm not gonna be able to afford to go. I can't make the trip. I'm sorry." I was like, "But I'm already excited." So I just went anyway by myself. Went to Thailand for 3 months, fell in love with Thailand, went back to visit my parents, and then after that, I was like, okay, this is where I'm staying for a while. So for 5 years, I would live a half year in Thailand, and then I would go back to my job in the Virgin Islands. And you want to talk about a sweet life. Wow. So I started a travel business and an artist residency in Thailand, and I lost all of that during COVID, but it was the best thing for me. Um, and now I live primarily in Kenya, and I travel around. It's nice to have a home base. For some years there, I was living, the first couple of years, I was just living in a suitcase. Um, so how did I make all this happen? I guess is the next question, right? That's kind of, yeah, Thailand, Kenya, Caribbean, a little bit of Europe. That's where I've been. And in between, I visit other places. I don't really go places without having a reason to go there. So, like, I lived in Thailand for 5 years. I still have not been to Vietnam. I've been to Cambodia a couple of times. I've been to India. I've been to Sri Lanka, but oh my goodness, I've gotten bitten by an ant. Hold on, guys. All right, I'm back. Let me rub cream on myself while I talk to you. So, what was I saying? How did I do all of this? I guess is the next question. First of all, I just want to talk about like privilege and travel privilege. And, it's one thing when you have grown up traveling internationally. It's one thing when you have a family who supports you. Um, it's it's a big difference. My situation is a lot different than, if your parents or your family or, your husband, your wife, your cousin, your sister, if people are telling you like, oh, you can't do that and it's crazy, that's totally different. I knew that I could do it, and I knew that it wasn't crazy. A bit untraditional, but not crazy. I knew that much. So I just want to like recognize that this is a difficult process for others. Also, I didn't have anybody. I don't have siblings. I have a family that's like, okay, like, do what you got to do for your life and enjoy your life. And if you're happy, we're proud. That is like not nearly, that's not a lot to overcome. So people have a tendency to hear my story or to hear the data on my story and be like, oh, you're so powerful. I am powerful for the things that I have overcome, but I'm not powerful for like just living this life. Both of my parents have lived a nomadic life with me and before me. So a lot of this stuff was already modeled to me. I mean, I grew up like going to Japan and living in New York in the summer. It's like I grew up a very well-traveled life. Yeah. I don't remember my first plane ride. So I just want to point out that this is was a lot easier for me than it is for some people. However, I didn't have a lot of money due to this death in my life. So, what I can say is that you need to have a plan. You really, really need to have a plan. And you need to focus on your authentic network. And this is what I'm going to say about this. Um, Networking is important and it is a part of American culture. However, networking is not using people. All right. So, I have a lot of friends in a lot of places that own a lot of things. I have never called them for a job. I have never called them for money. I'm grateful that they're there. If I need them, they're there. But, you can associate yourself with people of a certain caliber without, begging them for shit and preying on them. So look in your network. I mean, my network now is huge. I know people all over the world, and it's very, very resourceful. Where do you want to go? I mean, there's few places where if I want, I can put a spot on a map, a pin on a map, and just be like, oh, I'm going here for dinner. Search my network and I can find somebody who's like, oh, yes, I'm in town, or my cousin's in town. Let me call him. Let me tell him to come and pick you from the airport. Like, my network is expansive, but my network is expansive because I don't use people. And that means I don't go around saying, hey, I don't have something, let me just see what I can get from somebody else, or hey, my problem is now your problem. So people have respect for me and people entertain me when I actually do need something because I don't wear out welcome. So what is your network? Where do you have people that you know, and what do you already know? Start with what you know. You don't want to go start trying to travel. You're in a new place. You don't know how, even, you're not going to know how anything works. You're not going to know how the Wi-Fi works. You're not going to know how the water works. You're not going to know like anything. You don't know the language. You don't know the food. You don't know your way around. And now you want to start like figuring out where your money is coming from. Why? Why would you do that to yourself? Wherever you are now, figure out what you're going to do to make a living. And I'm not telling you like you need to do something big. I started with $400, $400 and $25 per article. There's nothing. And I still was able to make it work. But I had a plan. I had a plan to get from step A to step B. I knew in my network, okay, I can go to this place, I can find a seasonal job. I have done this before. This is what I know, right? And then I said, okay, I know that I can take this money that I'm making here and I can go and I can get my TEFL certification and I can have another backup plan because I don't want to be relying on this job for forever. I want to have my own independence. Yeah. And then I knew, okay, I can take this money that I'm making from teaching and making from jewelry industry and I can start my own business because I don't want to be relying on A or B for forever. I need C as well. So start with your network and start with a solid plan. And once you have a solid plan, make a plan to get to the next step. You're always going to need backup plan. And if the pandemic has not taught you anything, it should have taught you that skill set and multiple streams of income is very important. And, I'm an artist. I don't like doing things that I don't like doing. And I really care so much about my day to day life and my day to day like satisfaction in my life. So, what I'm saying is like, if I can do this, you guys can do this. Like you are watching this and you're an engineer, you're watching this and you're a lawyer, you're watching this and you're an accountant, you're watching this and you have all these much more traditional patterns and careers and opportunities. And me, I'm just a lowly I'm just a lowly photographer out here. I did not continue with photography because I knew that I was not going to be making $400 an hour out here in these, developing streets. I knew that. So I was like, okay, what what can I do that is going to still satisfy me? Um, so yeah, I diversified my skill set and I had a plan of what I was doing and where I was going. Another thing I'm going to say about some of you guys and your plans is a lot of you get really, really caught up on moving to a place that you've never been to. And I have done that. I think most places I've moved to, I've never been there. But I've gone to this place open to the fact that maybe it'll work, maybe it won't work. If it doesn't work, I'll just leave. Some of you guys sit and you wait and you save up money for 4 years, for 5 years to go to this place that you've never even been to. And so in your mind, you've romanticized it, you've watched the videos, you've watched the movies. Oh, something is biting me. There are some big ass ants out here, y'all. Um, and I'm trying to stay covered, but they are getting to me a little bit. So some of you, you watch these videos, you watch, the Instagrams or whatever. We didn't even have Instagram when I was starting this. Digital nomad did not even exist as a term when I was starting this. So it's been very interesting to to see this. Um, you guys get really caught up in a location without knowing what is there. And I can promise you that every place with palm trees and coconut trees and beaches has like a completely different side to it. So I'll just say like um, either go visit the place that you want to live at first, or go there with the understanding that it might not be what you think it is and that you might have to change your location. Um, what are some things that you should be looking for? You should be asking yourself, not like, where do I want to live because it's pretty, but you should be asking yourself, what is the weather like? Not, not is it warm or is it cold? Like, what is the weather like? Yeah. You can live in a place that's cold without it being Chicago cold. You know, you don't have to deal with the effing blizzard every year. I don't know what's coming out of the trees. Okay, a big bird or something, a monkey. um, you can live in a place that's hot without it. Hello. Sorry, that's a neighbor lady. You can live in a place that's hot without having like monsoons and, terrible, terrible rains and floods. And if that is going to happen there, then you need to be like, okay, this part of the year, then this part of the year, there's going to be floods. So I need to be looking for a flat that is up high, right? Do they have hurricanes? Like, do they have earthquakes? Do they have drought? Look at what happens with the weather, guys. Like, there's more to weather than just like, oh, I like hot weather and oh, I like cold weather. What happens with the weather throughout the year? How do those weather patterns shift? And how is that going to affect you? Because you might fantasize about moving to London, but London is cold and gray, and you might get there and find out that you're freaking depressed all the time. So be realistic because places are not going to change for you. And that was a very hard lesson for me to learn. Not saying I went everywhere wanting everything to change for me, but just, falling in love with places and then being like, oh, but why is it not like this? I have to say that about Kenya. Why is Kenya not like this? Why is Kenya not like that? Kenya's not going to change for me. I have to admit what Kenya is and what it isn't and move on with my life. And I'm still going through the process of that. Kidogo. So, um, figure out what you need in your life and be realistic about if this location is going to really serve my purpose. What is the infrastructure like? And um, what you will learn as you're moving through the world is that infrastructure oftentimes depends on the neighborhood. So you can live in a developing nation that has questionable infrastructure. But if you're in a rich neighborhood or an expat neighborhood or, an immigrant neighborhood, however you want to call it, uh, you might not see those infrastructure issues, or they might be minuscule in comparison to what everybody else is dealing with. But you don't know these things until you investigate. Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is to be realistic and to be slow. I could have gone to twice as many countries if I had been trying to run around the earth by now. I've only been to like 60 or 70, I don't know. So, um, ooh, I don't know what's coming out of the tree. I think it's a peacock. We have a peacock that likes to hop from house to house. So I think it's that damn peacock. Anyway, um, so uh, go slow and explore a region. Yeah. For example, if you go to Southeast Asia, you might find that Cambodia is not at all what you're looking for, but Vietnam is, you know, or Thailand's not at all what you're looking for, but I don't know, Burma is. Yeah. So just explore slowly. If you don't know exactly where you're going to go, that's got to be this peacock. I'm sorry, guys. Oh, it's a pack of very large squirrels over my head. Okay, now I know what it is. I'm okay now. I think that's a squirrel. Anyway, um, go slowly and explore, or visit before if you're like, okay, I don't want to do all this traveling around. I just want to move and I just want to, find one place and be there. Okay, that's fine. Go visit. Make sure that you know what it is. You know, when I was in the Virgin Islands, every day somebody would be like, "Oh, I want to move here," and then they would find out that, you got to add $1,000 for every bedroom that you want to have in your house, and they're like, "Wait a minute, what?" Places are not what you think they are. And it's important to have a realistic view, especially before buying property. Don't move to a country you've never been to and buy property. I know somebody's going to be like, oh, I've done it. That's fine. I hope it works out for you. I am never going to tell anybody to just buy property in a country that they've never been to. Sorry. So, that is really all that I did was traveled slowly, kept an open mind as much as I possibly could, focused inward, focused on, myself and healing the things that are in myself. Because I'll tell you guys another thing, if you don't work on yourself, none of these places are going to be satisfactory to you. If you don't work on your own healing, your own wounds, healing your own wounds, none of these places are going to do anything for you. Everything is still going to come from inside. So focus on yourself. Do research about realistic things, not how many black folks live there. You might not even like the black folks once you get there, or how many parties are there. Like, sometimes you guys can be a bit superficial on some of the questions you're asking and some of the things that you want to find out. Yeah. So really, really dig on, what do I need in order to make my lifestyle work there? Do you need childcare? Okay. How do you go about finding a nanny? How do you go about finding house help? How much is that going to cost you? I can get into another video about all of that if you guys are interested, but that is a reality for most of the world, is that you live with staff, you have caretakers, you have house help, and it makes your quality of life a lot better, and it supports people that need work. And as an American, that's often a bit difficult for us to deal with or to accept. Um, but you can do it in an ethical way, and you can improve your quality of life and the quality of life of somebody else. So what does that look like? How is that going to work? What kind of things do you need to teach your house help? How do you manage a staff? I remember having to learn how to manage household staff, and I was just like damn near crying afterwards, like, oh my God, I'm a slave master. No, you're not. You're an employer. But our American mindset has us so hopped up on not accepting any help that we are ruining our own lives, our own marriages, our own families, because you cannot do 500 things at once. So, anyway, that is my ramble and my rant today about my journey and kind of some of the steps that I took. I hope that this video was helpful for some of you. If not, that's fine. You can also let me know in the comments. The people in the comments are always the ones that disagree. No, I take that back. My channel has grown to having more positive people, but it's like somebody wants to wait and watch a whole 40-minute video just to write like that one thing that they disagree about. um, so that's fine. And if there's more questions that you guys have, please let me know in the comments. Some of these things after such a long time are just like, I don't even think about them anymore. Um, so I struggle with making content, and then somebody asks me a question and I'm like, oh, that's actually a very good question. Why didn't I think of that? So the more questions you guys ask me, the more I can, answer them, because I don't think about this stuff all the time anymore. Um, so yes, I am still out here, and I don't really plan to stop. So, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, subscribe, ding the bell, share it with somebody. I hope it helps you on your journey. And I don't do consultations because I don't want to. I would just much rather you guys subscribe to my YouTube channel and subscribe to my Patreon. And I just put out information there than doing a bunch of consultations that take up time and charge lots of money. And yeah, stop listening to people that have been abroad for a year and a half, 2 years. They don't know shit to tell you. They're just figuring out their own journey. So, good luck in all of your endeavors. Believe in yourself. Have a plan. Stay motivated. Stay focused. And doesn't take any amount of time. There's no amount of time for this plan. If you want to leave in a month, you can do it. You just need a plan, and utilize your network in a genuine and authentic way. Don't ask anything if it's somebody that you would not be willing to do for them. And stay true to your path. I wish you all well and have a blessed, blessed, blessed day.